Yes, Chicago bass buddy. That's a little demonstration of what we're doing today, sort of. We're doing an warm-up practice intro exercise that's meant to focus on sliding. Sliding is so important as functional bass players. A lot of the bass education material that I see online focuses on playing in position, and of course, we've got to be able to play in position. But the reality is, so much great music, especially if we're talking about like rock, pop, modern country, bass players are sliding all over the place. They're not playing in position. And the reason is, in those genres, often we're using simple chord progressions. Often we're staying to the root note the vast majority of the time, and we're not necessarily playing a lot of notes. And when that's the case, articulations like sliding allow us to add back in some interest, so it's not too flavorless, too boring. Slides are probably the number one way that bass players in genres like that add flavor and character to their lines. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, this exercise came out of the fact that I realized I wasn't as in control and intentional with my slides as I'd really like to be. So this exercise is meant to help address that issue. It's meant to help you get more fluidity with sliding and to be intentional. So you're not just moving your hand purely thinking about, oh, I need to get over here, so I'll do that. You're actually incorporating the slide as part of your groove and part of your phrase. There's going to be a couple different versions here. We're going to pick a key. I'm going to do F sharp minor. You can do any key, major, minor, whatever you want, any scale, really. But we're going to do F sharp minor for today. And we're going to start off with an ascending version. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to bounce back and forth between the root and the other notes in the scale. Root second, root third, root fourth, root fifth, root sixth, root seventh, root octave. Later on, we'll go back down as well. Now, you could do this a lot of different ways. I'm going to start off by showing you 4 notes on each pitch. So you can count that if you want to as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... I'm going to do this at like 120 beats per minute, but you can, of course, slow it down, speed it up. In fact, do slow it down if this is challenging for you. Don't speed it up unless you really feel like you're kind of falling asleep because it's so easy. Let me just show you rather than talk too much. So here we go. Cool. We went up the scale. A couple things to notice. I am not using the most efficient fingering or fretting. The easiest way to play this would, of course, be to play it in position. It's just a scale. I'm intentionally staying on the E string, not quite as long as I could, but for quite a while. I'm staying on the E string until I get to the 5th, C sharp. And then I'm crossing into the A string a little bit for the 6th, 7th, and octave. The reason I'm doing that is this is a sliding exercise. We need to make ourselves slide. If we played in position, there's not going to be any sliding. I'm intentionally forcing my hand to go back and forth on this exercise to practice this stuff. So let me show you that one more time, and I want to point out one more thing first. This is part of the study here is realizing you have to be purposeful with when you start your slides. If I'm going a very short distance, let's say I'm just going from the root to the third, the distance physically isn't very far. I can start that slide at the very last minute. That's fine because my hand doesn't have to go very far. But if I'm trying to slide up to the 5th and I want to get there in rhythm, I'm going to have to start my slide earlier because it's a much further distance to travel. Of course, you also can play with how fast or slow you're physically sliding, but larger intervals are going to require you to start your slide earlier. Smaller intervals are going to require you to probably start your slide later, at least for this exercise. The other thing to mention here, in case this isn't clear, we want this to be a single pitch. It's going up and down. So you should hear the slide. We don't want or something like that. Think of this like a vocalist or a horn player where you hear the pitch going from one note to another. Try to get to the point with this exercise where the pitch never goes away. It's just moving up and down, even when you're crossing strings. If you can do that, you're in great shape. Let me show you this one more time. I did that with 2 notes on each pitch, I realize, which is a little bit of a more challenging version. You're sliding more often. You can do 2, you can do 4. If this is really challenging, you can do 8. Now, once you've got that down, the next step is to go up the ladder like we did, and then come back down the ladder. So we're going to do exactly what we did, and when we get to the top, we're going to start to just come back down. Root octave, root 7th, root 6th, root 5th, root 4th, root 3rd, root 2nd. Here we go. The whole thing. You might notice on the octaves, I kind of hung out there for a while. I jumped from one octave to another, back and forth, maybe 4 times. I like to do that because that's an especially important piece of vocab. We slide up an octave or down an octave so much in every single genre of music, so we want to make especially certain that we're comfortable with that one. So once you've spent some time with that, we can start to do the opposite. We can start high, drop down. This would be octave 7th, octave 6th, octave 5th, down the ladder, back up the ladder. Let me show you what that would look like. Sounds pretty good for an exercise, right? It's a bit more musical than just running scales. You could do this with a drum machine or a metronome or whatever. Do it with some kind of time source because part of the challenge is making sure you land in rhythm. Ascending sounds great. Descending sounds great. Then you can start to put them together. And a way to do that is to ascend. When you get to the octave, do the opposite. Let me show you what that would look like. Couple technical notes I should point out. When I'm descending, when I'm starting high and then dropping down, again, because I want to maximize how much sliding I'm doing for the purpose of this study, I'm staying on the A string longer than maybe you always would in every playing situation. I'm staying on the A string until I get down to the 4th, the B, and then I'm crossing strings for the 3rd, 2nd, and lower octave. Now, a great way to test if your rhythm is where it should be with this, if you're playing this at a very high level, this hand, your plucking hand, is basically going to be doing the whole thing, the same thing the whole time. That's it. Only the pitches are changing and your left hand is moving a lot, but your right hand hopefully isn't really moving or changing at all, at least until we're crossing the strings. Try to do this without any accents at first for maximum evenness. And then down the road, if you want to add accents back in, cool, go for it. Now, there's one more thing to do with this. we get to do it all again, an octave up. We said that the purpose of this exercise was to get comfortable sliding across the whole instrument. We've only used the lower 2 strings. Now we want to use the top 2 strings. So we're going to take the exact same exercises and do them an octave up. We're going to go up 2 strings over 2 frets. Exact same fingering, exact same fretting, exact same ideas, just an octave higher. So you can get used to doing this on the thinner strings and these different positions of the fretboard. Ascending the ladder and back down. Let's descend the ladder and come back up. Ear training too, right? Especially if you try this with some different scales, maybe some things you're not as used to, like getting away from just the major scale. It really forces your ear to start to recognize, okay, that's the 6th, that's the 7th. So ear training on top of everything else. Let's do the last version of this and get out of here. So this is ascending and then descending combined together. Awesome. All right. Take that, run with it, make your own variations. If you do think of a cool variation or a way to take this to a next step, post it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you come up with. And I'll see you next time.